You know, there are only a few corporate chains whose honor and dignity I will defend to my dying breath. Bass Pro Shops is one, Arby's is another. And rounding out the trio is that realm of culinary delight known as Cracker Barrel. I maintain that you simply will not find a better meatloaf dish with 3 sides for under $12 anywhere in the world. I dare you to try. Maybe a low bar, but still. Also, across the entire American Southeast, there are like 46 Cracker Barrels per square mile. It's become such a part of the landscape that you either develop an affection for it or you become deeply depressed. And I have chosen affection in this case. And so it may be partly because of this deep affection that I take personally the recent efforts by some on the left to turn Cracker Barrel racist. This is one of the weirder trends among progressive race hustlers. They notice a lot of white people congregating in buildings, in these Cracker Barrel buildings, disappearing inside for hours at a time, reemerging with a fatter stomach and carrying a scented candle and a bag of hard candy from the gift shop. And they figure that something sinister must be happening inside, something racist. And that's why a few months ago, Cracker Barrel, you may remember, made headlines because there was a, quote, noose hanging from the ceiling in one of their restaurants. And this sparked outrage until it was discovered that the noose was actually not a noose, but the cord of an antique soldering iron. But no worries, said the media. You know, they simply changed their headlines and reported that a, quote, here's CNN's phrasing, a, quote, noose-like cord was found in a Cracker Barrel. Yes, if you can't get away with calling it a noose, just call it noose-like. And the great thing is that literally any rope, string, or cord can be called noose-like. Now, if you thought that would be the most desperate attempt to racist-ify Cracker Barrel, you were wrong. Yesterday, the chain was trending again, this time due to a meme posted by some random Twitter account, which makes the following claim. This is the claim. Cracker was a slang term for whip. That's why blacks called whites crackers, from the crack of the whip. A Cracker Barrel is a barrel that held the whips for sale at the country store. You see the whip going from the R to the K in the logo? Racism in your face. Now, this claim that Cracker Barrel was named after barrels of whips sold at the country store for plantation owners to use on their slaves, this claim was amplified and repeated and immediately, unquestioningly accepted by thousands of people. Sophia Nelson, who's a self-described award-winning journalist, retweeted this claim with the caption, "Heavy sigh. I really like Cracker Barrel, but now that I see this and I get it, I sadly no longer can eat there." And she passed this along to her 74,000 followers. And this is what award-winning journalists do now. They see a meme, accept it absolutely and on face value, and then promptly spread it as a fact to the public. The backlash was so intense that eventually Cracker Barrel actually had to issue a statement addressing it and denying the racist origins of their name. Now, an intelligent person, of which there is a dwindling supply in this country, upon hearing this claim about barrels of whips, might immediately suspect that something isn't right. First of all, why would you sell whips in a barrel, of all things? Wouldn't they get tangled? Isn't that the most impractical way to sell whips? Well, you could go to Lowe's or Home Depot and find all kinds of ropes and cords for sale, noose-like items, CNN would say. And what you'll find is that they're all hanging or placed neatly on shelves. If you walk into a Lowe's and say, "Excuse me, can you point me to your barrel of ropes?" they're going to look at you like you're insane. The other problem with the claim is that it's completely made up. And maybe that's the main problem with it, is that it's just completely, totally made up. This is a thing that somebody on the internet simply invented out of whole cloth and posted. There is zero truth to it. As it turns out, and shockingly, even Snopes did a fact check on this, the term Cracker Barrel comes from literal barrels of crackers that used to be sold at country stores. Now, a barrel of crackers seems itself sort of impractical and unsanitary. But, you know, this was a different time. People back in those days thought nothing of sticking their hand into a huge barrel and pulling out a wad of crackers. And then they buy the handful of crackers for a nickel or whatever it was, and that's where the name comes from. The Cracker Barrel origin story that went viral yesterday was essentially a conspiracy theory. And this is what we have to understand. This was a conspiracy theory, and this is how left-wing conspiracy theories often work. We know about the conspiracy theories on the right, QAnon, Sandy Hook trutherism, and so on. We hear plenty about those. But the left has its own. They just look a little different. and are built on different background assumptions. The most basic background assumption for the left-wing conspiracy theory is that everything is racist. Every institution is racist, and racism, that is bigotry by white people against non-white people specifically, is embedded into everything in our culture. See, conspiracy theories are all about finding patterns where they don't exist, or finding patterns where they do exist and then inventing extravagant and fantastical explanations for those patterns. This happens on both sides of the aisle. It is very far from an exclusively right-wing phenomenon. Claiming that the Cracker Barrel logo is a racist dog whistle from a store with mysterious nooses hanging in its gift shop is a conspiracy theory every bit as ridiculous and invented as the claim that a pizza shop in D.C. is the staging ground for a child sex trafficking ring. The only difference, again, is the background assumption that goes into it. And so Cracker Barrel is not canceled. It will never be canceled on my watch, as long as it keeps serving that delicious meatloaf. But the conspiracy theorists smearing its good name are absolutely canceled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.